my own danger to myself. Oh boy, did I have some adventures back in my day. I remember a time when, it was during the 72nd annual Bard County Matisse Festival. Yes, there was an art competition to do a Matisse cutout, very much like he once did. And the winner would get a lifetime supply of frozen oranges.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
Oh man, I shopped for freezers prior to that competition as I was so sure I was gonna win, no problem. And I was gonna make all kinds of things that required oranges. But then I defeated myself. But luckily, I learned from my experiences as a youth. And at some point, I just learned to not do things that might lead to such chaotic problems. Welcome to another episode of Don't Eat the Art. Today we're going to talk about paper cutouts and how to do them. She's already gotten the start because she can't wait while I set up the camera and everything. I also have to apologize for the mobile I have here. I couldn't find another spot to put it.
What's mobile?
Mobile? Well, remember I made that when I was pregnant with you to have in your room. We'll get it back in your room at some point, but that requires screwing something to the ceiling. Anyway, we are going to do some cutouts. Apparently some of us are going to make confetti. And Matisse is the guy who pretty much did invent the paper cutout. That was one of the great innovations for art in the 20th century. He started doing these when he was, I think, 72. So I'm just going to show some close-ups. Oh, you're okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that. And then
I'm fine.
You're okay?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. And then there he is. Awesome dude. Cutting some stuff out. I just wanted to kind of show. So this book is actually featuring some stuff that hadn't been seen much before. These are some finished pieces. You can see him in his studio and some of his more famous cutouts. And well, that one's an illustration and there's a painting, but there's some cutouts. And yeah, some nice pieces here. So a lot of these in this book are fragments that he actually wanted destroyed, but his family couldn't bear to part with. And eventually, as his cutouts became known as the importance of them started to be realized, they decided to find a way to share these with the world. So what they did was they have a bunch of the little elements that were just cutting room floor scraps or pieces he'd have laying around for projects that, we can't even envision what projects he may have put these to, but what they did was they have some just in isolation, kind of like little museum specimens to show, but this was really to help people learn kind of what his process was, and then some of them, like if there were similar elements to some completed pieces, they'd have the completed piece exhibited alongside some of these elements, but that's not really, I just wanted to point that out since I was going to flip through and show. So there's a completed piece, but you can see, and some of them were huge. I mean, a lot of them he had covering walls of his studio apartment, and they were just amazing. And he did these, like I said, he was 72 when he started working on these and did those for the next almost 20 years of his life. So and they are my favorite segment of his work. I mean, I love his paintings. He was a master of color, of course, but the cutouts, oh man, I love the cutouts. So and these are some elements. There's a completed piece. I got to see that in person. It was awesome. But anyway, just kind of wanted you to see it.
When I get the jar full, I can get the surprise.
Oh. So anyway, his cutouts were just, they're hugely inspirational to me and plenty of other artists. Now the difference with how he does them and how I do them, I do want to try his method someday, but what he was doing was he would have assistants paint with gouache onto these large pieces of paper, and then from that's what he would cut from. And he would usually he had all kinds of scissors he would use. I don't think he ever really used X-Acto knives, but I do that sometimes. So I'm going to show a couple of completed pieces of mine. So this is clearly a Matisse-inspired piece here that we then had framed. This was me sitting in a hotel, the dining lounge area one morning, super early. I was the only person in there, so it was like a sea of empty chairs and the pictures on the wall and the fake plants they had sitting there. And the bar
Who are you talking to?
The camera. And these are some raindrops falling in a storm.
Let me look at the raindrops.
See? So that's some stuff you can do with cutouts. Now this, I also used an X-Acto knife on, and that's definitely one. Yeah, you can see. I don't know if I would have been able to really do that with scissors. Maybe some of you out there are super great with scissors to do that. Anyway, so that's some examples of my completed work. And let's get started with a new one. Anyway, let's see. What do I want to do? I'm going to...
How about what I'm doing?
What you're doing? What are you doing?
I'm doing what I did a house.
Oh my goodness.
But this is toast.
It's toast?
Yeah.
How does it taste? Does it taste like strawberry jelly?
Yeah.
Oh. Is it pink pickles?
Yeah.
Alright, so
What color you're going to do?
I'm going to do some of each. just have some scrapbooking paper. You can also use construction paper and other colored paper, but I ended up with a big collection of this sort of paper, so got a good selection of that. And construction paper, you're gonna have trouble, like if you want anything permanent, that's gonna start fading with time in the sun. I don't think this stuff's gonna do that as much, but I honestly don't know. So if you want something a little more permanent, maybe doing what Matisse did, since his stuff's still around. And he was doing this, I think he started in the 1930s, something like that. So I'm gonna have some lichens. So if you aren't comfortable with just cutting stuff out like this, you could trace it and then cut it out. And if you really don't want to have that tracing seen, flip it upside down. I mean, obviously if it's not a symmetrical shape, you'll have to keep that in mind. But I just kind of whack at it like this, I guess. One thing Matisse said that I really like about the thought of these cutouts is that normally with coloring, you have to draw the contours with a pencil or something and then fill in the color. But when you do the cutouts, you're just drawing directly with color. It's an enormous amount of freedom with that sort of thought.
But I'm doing a good job.
You are.
Are you gonna do another one soon?
I'm doing a lot of them. Kind of want to place these accordingly.
Accordingly.
Yes. But you can kind of...
So you can have it?
Yes. So you can kind of bend the paper and then just try to crease in one tiny spot and then make a little niche there. And then, I mean, again, it's going to be a little bit of crease if that's going to be just cut out anyway, or you just don't care.
Oh,
it's an easy trick.
Mine.
Uh-oh. Oh, man. Oh, here you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then you can just kind of work your scissors in there and start cutting. And it's a little tricky. I don't normally do this anymore, but I think some teacher in elementary school taught me that. And I still do it once in a while. So, and then you can kind of cut what you wanted. This is probably where I'd want my small scissors. I do have some little embroidery scissors that I use for finer stuff, smaller things. But I was like, oh, I'm gonna do a giant thing. I'm not gonna need those. You're doing a great job over there.
Yeah, I am.
So modest. Alright.
Oh, my paper, look! Oh, guess I'll do a different one.
Or I could just pick it up for you.
I just needed, I'm done with this one. This is a part of the lightning.
You mean the lichens?
Yeah. But a little bit is that.
Oh, it's very nice. You gonna pick another color?
Yep, I want a yellow.
Okay.
Give me a yellow. Yellow O. Yellow O.
Are you gonna cut out a yellow O?
I can't.
You can't. Why not? I bet you could if you tried.
Hey, I eat some pink and yellow at the car
Oh.
and at the store. Say yep.
Sure. I'm not entirely sure what you're talking about, but
The one
I'll
we
take your word for it.
The ones we just got.
Oh, those. Yep.
I want these ones to do.
Okay. So,
But I'm gonna do.
careful.
I'll start. Oh, get this.
Well, I think that's better on your reach. There you go. And if you're bothered by like the edge sticking up a little, sometimes they'll lift it up a little bit like this and then just go and then stick it back down. But that would take a while, so I'm not gonna do all that right now, but I thought I'd show how to do that. And if you want to be sure to not get glue on your main piece, you could always put a less important paper underneath it. I'm not going to bother with that today, but I do that when I'm working on something serious. Although I'm kind of liking how this is turning out. So
Look, I made a kite.
let me see. Oh wow.
And this is light blue.
Uh-huh. Okay, then we're gonna do. And the more intricate the pieces with all these little bits hanging off and stuff, the trickier it is going to be to get the glue on in a tidy manner. And also you have to be careful, at least with this kind of paper, since it's that scrapbooking stuff, it's kind of stiff. So it's fairly easy to lay it down correctly because it's not as floppy. But some kinds of paper are going to be super floppy.
And that is the water.
Those are the lichens. Sometimes lichens are sort of a bluish color. There are all kinds of lichens. I'll have to show you my lichen book sometime. We could look at them, but Claire has it right now. Okay, so we've got a background lay. And then I'm going to get this color and some orange. It's more flimsy, so I'll have to keep that in mind. Oh wait, there's a sturdier orange right now.
Some of your orange. Or these are mine.
Yes.
And
bit
the
of red.
other ones are yours.
Yes.
Can I have your red?
Not right now. I'm about to use it.
But it has windows.
It does.
Let me look through it.
Here. so what I'm gonna do for this is I want some of the little spores that lichens have. And they're, like if you ever look at lichens on a rock and you see little orange and yellow or reddish dots, that's what those are. So, I'm going to do some circles, sort of.
I'm cutting this piece for you.
Oh, thank you.
For you, for your light man.
Like this? So I'm going to go.
But this is mine.
It is. Chunk. Maybe a little more. Chunk.
I have a cut now.
Okay.
And then I'll do the rest of. Look, I did a teeny triangle.
Aw, it's so teeny.
It's down.
Yeah.
The mite is going to walk in here and see the other mites. Just do that.
Okay.
You can have this hotel.
A hotel for me.
You can have this hotel.
A hotel for me.
I made one for you.
Well, thank you.
Ah!
Did you do it?
Yep.
Good job.
This is the part.
The part.
The hotel is going up here,
Oh,
but I have to do the back.
okay.
It goes.
Alright, so there we've got our
Like that.
background completely ready. And now I need to find,
A mite.
yeah, which one I want to do. Now one thing I have to keep in mind with this is these are not live mites, they're ones I took photos of under a microscope, so that were suspended in fluid, so I have to I have watched these mites running around, so I have to kind of keep that memory of how they move in mind as I do this.
Hedgehog.
It's a hedgehog. Oh, that's a very nice hedgehog. Good job. Okay, so I have the mite all done. Added some seed there. I decided where I'm going to position my 2 lines.
What are you gonna do?
Well, I'm about to show you. So to apply glue to the back is such a long, thin thing.
Look at that!
Very nice.
What is this? What kind of O's are they?
Well, I'll tell you in a little bit, but right now we're talking about the gluing. So I have this piece of paper that I don't really need, so I have the back side of the paper up to apply the glue, and I've got my glue stick kind of pushed down a bit. I'm just going to slowly pull that string of paper through, and that should now have a bunch of glue on it. I left a little bit without glue because where it ended up was hanging up.
Here, you can have this
watch out.
hedgehog.
Thank you. Very nice. I'll set it right here.
It has so many, but it has a little bit gone.
Oh.
Some other hedgehogs ate it,
What? Oh my goodness.
but one at a time did. But that's just a part.
Oh. Snip. Excess there. Okay, so there's one of my lines. Let me double check the angle for this one.
For the hedgehog,
For my lines.
something. You made my animal.
I did.
Our mice are animals.
Yep, they're kind of animal.
Hey, we have mites. Pikachu.
Yes, we do actually. Now, the ones that live on us are called homodex. They're super cute.
But not the touch.
Well, you can touch them. You just probably won't know if you're touching them or not, as they're super tiny.
This is a Sharpie challenge.
Okay, so let me show what we have so far. So it's definitely more like Matisse with just the standout colors like that. Obviously it's mine with the saccades and the stuff here, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take a little bit of gouache paint. So
Gouache paint.
yeah, that's this kind of paint. So I guess in a sense it'll be even more in the spirit of Matisse. And I'm going to add my outlines because that's pretty crucial to my work.
You said skitties.
I said Matisse. Alright.
What kind of hat do you have?
Oh, it's a hair tie or barrette. Someone made it from beads. And then hers, we've got a pink background with, what is this?
Wow, that's some stuff falling.
Some stuff falling. And then we've got these hedgehogs here. If you want some standalone pieces, it's the mama and the baby, and I think these were the other babies, right? Is that what those were? Or are they something else?
Here's something else.
They're
They're
something
hedgehogs.
There's something else, but they are also hedgehogs. Alright guys, so here are the finished pieces. There's my poor batted mite walking along the lichens, and her something falling, and the hedgehog family. So, again, this was just, we just used scissors, the glue sticks, paper, poster board, of course.
I want a little paper.
Well, we're talking about what we already did today. And then I just used some black wash paint with these two liners to do the outlines. Just because that would have been extra tricky to cut out little tiny strips of black paper. But I can show some other ways. If you really want to do something like that, I would have done black paper, a little bit larger than the brown. Please don't get on the table. And then I would have the brown a little smaller on it. So I may show you some more 3D stuff at some point, but that's what we did today. There's some plain old paper cutouts. Friendly reminder that smooth surface is recommended unless you want confetti carpet